Welcome to Thriving in the Game, a podcast dedicated to exploring what Black women need to navigate the corporate world of technology, offering insights, strategies, and personal stories that will affirm, validate, and encourage you on your journey up the corporate ladder. I'm your host, Alicia. Join me as we learn how to thrive together. We are on a roll. We are back with our next Profile in Thriving. With just one more bonus episode left, I hope you are enjoying these conversations. Imagine you've been building what most will call a successful technology career, but somewhere deep down, you still feel like you need more to fulfill and challenge you. What if you dream not of the executive roles, but you have this vision you just can't shake? Maybe you don't want to walk away from your tech career, but you can see launching your own product or service. So how do you know if you're really ready to take on building a business in addition to your corporate tech role? Our fourth Profile in Thriving highlights the career of Amanda Dawson, a trailblazing professional whose journey exemplifies excellence in both the technology and entrepreneurial spheres. With over 25 years as an IT project and program manager and over 15 years as the principal owner of Elegance LLC, Amanda has built a dynamic career navigating the intersections of technology and business. She thrives on building connections, solving challenges, and curating memorable experiences that leave lasting impressions, skills that she has been able to leverage with clients in both her consulting role and her event planning company. Amanda is an incredible example of balancing successful professions in corporate tech and in building her own business. She gives us the real deal. While your business can lead to joy fulfilled, you first have to assess your skills and capacity. Understand that having a full-time job and trying to run a business is not for the faint of heart. You also have to develop a good community around you so that you can partner with your people to build each other's businesses together. And funding is real. Figure out what you need in terms of dollars and skill sets before you launch. And when it comes to your technology career, release the doubt. If you are called to the room, you belong in the room. Walk in with confidence. And success is not dependent on following the traditional path. Our journeys are not all the same. Be flexible and open to learning. Those experiences can develop you in ways that help you thrive, not only in your day-to-day profession, but in even creating something for yourself. Join us in this conversation as we learn more about Amanda's career and what it looks like to thrive as a Black woman in tech and business.
I always say, honestly, I felt like tech chose me. I didn't choose tech, primarily because my aspirations were really to be a pediatrician. I set out to be a pediatrician, attending Howard University, and organic chemistry told me otherwise. I struggled and was working part-time for the federal government as a civil servant with the Department of Justice, the Environmental and Natural Resources Division, and really started learning more administrative tasks. Then a friend of mine told me about an opportunity to be a contractor, and it was for help desk. So that was like my introduction to tech, basically at the ground roots level. But the irony of it was for the same division that I had worked for within Department of Justice. So it was seamless because I knew what the attorneys were doing on a day-to-day basis. I knew what they needed, what their paralegals and support staff needed. And so it was seamless for me to jump into tech and into the help desk.
Wow. Amanda is a friend of mine, and I've actually never heard this before. So I love that. So you started in help desk. What do you feel like continued to build your skills and build your confidence in your tech career over time?
Yeah, as mentioned with help desk, it was just really methodical. It was simply walking people through step by step by step. And I was learning along the way because I had no prior tech experience. My experience really came from the fact that I had worked for that litigating component and I knew what their workload was and what they needed. I feel old saying this. They were working in WordPerfect at the time and all these other apps that are so old school. And so I knew the day-to-day task of what these users needed. And so while I didn't have the actual help desk and tech support, I knew what the workload was and where the help was needed. So again, it just came really natural for me. You know, when people heard my voice over the phone, it was like, hey, I know who you are. And so they made me comfortable to stumble and to learn along the way. And as I grew, I stayed in help desk for about 5 years, and it was like team lead. And then it was time to start growing a little bit more. Nobody stays in help desk for that long. And for me, it was just more, I guess my supervisor saw more of a leadership role in me. And so team lead, and then eventually started going into project and program management.
I hear some seeds that were already being planted in terms of you helping people, anticipating their needs, but we'll get to that.
Absolutely.
So it's interesting that you said you were given the space to kind of stumble, because I think that is important. I do think young women have to understand that they're not going to necessarily be perfect at their roles. I think I've struggled with a little bit of that perfectionism over time of wanting to come out and be amazing, but you're learning. What do you feel like you pursued outside of maybe your on-the-job training that helped you to, again, feel more confident as you continue to build your leadership skills, but also starting to plant the seed and prepare you to lead a business?
Yeah, there were a lot of things that really led me to that. So my path with my degree at Howard University wasn't a straight path. I did not finish in 4 years. And so as I was working at the help desk, I was transitioning where I was working full-time and going to school part-time. And so I had amazing leadership. Like to this day, I remember the supervisor that allowed me to take the bus on my lunch break to go up Georgia Avenue to Howard University, take my classes, and come back and work. The transition of what was happening in my personal life along with my professional life led me to be more responsible, because when I first entered Howard University, I wasn't as responsible, so I had to learn the hard way. So, I really felt like there was a foundation that was being set for me about what leadership really looks like. And even though I was doubting myself, doubting that I did not finish my degree in 4 years, doubting that I didn't have help desk experience when I was working with pretty senior people around me, doubting myself in so many ways, I had a man who was my supervisor who just believed in me and encouraged me and again showed me what leadership looked like. And I was grateful for that. I think that set the tone to model the type of leader I wanted to be and set the tone for what led to what I do currently with my business.
Throughout the season, we talk a lot about the importance of having community, a community of peers, mentors, sponsors, coaches, because I think oftentimes we are doubting ourselves and you need someone who can see those gifts in you. And so you mentioned that your supervisor saw a path of leadership for you. Did you have other people in your life at the time who were also instrumental at identifying some gifts outside of help desk or outside of litigation?
Outside of my supervisor and work, I had good community. I have an amazing group of friends. I have accountability partners. I was naive, but not really finding a mentor at that stage in my life. And so I didn't have that, but I had mentors in the sense that I had community. Even though my girls and I, we partied together, we woke up every morning and made sure we were at work every day. And so we believed in the work ethic and the hard work. Of course, I had a praying mother and grandmother who made sure that they covered me in every sense of the word. And so while they didn't know my struggle all the time, and I didn't allow them to know my struggle because I came to DC for a reason, I felt every prayer that they prayed for me. It's funny you mentioned mentors, because I think about it in hindsight, a lot of my mentors and my leaders were men at first, because in the tech field, especially in the 90s, I started help desk in 99, 98. It was very male-dominated leadership. There were good leaders and somewhat bad leaders, and most of them were white men too. So I didn't have those mentors at first that looked like me. It was interesting, but I valued it nonetheless because, again, had community around me. I had others that I relied on, a good church family. And so I was covered fully by my folks.
One of the reasons why this podcast is so important to me is because I think there's a focus in getting Black women into tech. The focus is not always in helping you maintain and thrive in tech, because it is still very heavily male dominated. And oftentimes you are identifying mentors who are white men, sometimes white women. But I would love to see a day where there are more women who look like us, who are able to serve as mentors and not be stretched thin, right? right?
Absolutely, right?
There are some, but we all can't share them. So shifting gears a little bit to Urban Elegance LLC.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your business and really what led you to that. And because obviously you're starting to build this career in tech. And I still want you to talk a little bit about shifting into leadership there. Was that something you were able to do before you began your business? Or is that something you feel like helped you prepare to start your business?
So Urban Elegance is in all sense my baby. I smile, I feel joy when I think about Urban Elegance because it is a full-scale bespoke event planning company based in Washington, D.C. It was co-founded with a dear friend of mine. We came together and we just tried to think about what we could do to build on our skill set, what we can do to bring community together, to, in every sense of the word, bring the fellowship that we love to have over food, good drink, good music. At the time, we were doing small things like hosting dinner parties and game nights at our homes, and it brought us so much joy. We wanted to think about what joy we can bring to others. There lied Urban Elegance, a Black woman-owned business based in Washington, D.C., and it has been the biggest blessing that I ever could imagine, the hardest lessons that I've ever learned. As you speak on leadership, I found that my passion is really about representing both urban and both elegance. And, that name sounds awkward to people when you think about an event planning company, but my business partner and I wanted a two-name business that represented us fully. And it brought so much pride to me to know that I could bring my skill set from IT. So I can think about technology. I can think about project and program management. I can make spreadsheets. I can do calendar invites and use innovation. There's a toolkit that I have that I use fully to run this business. So I didn't really find my voice and find my purpose until this business came about. And I say that fully because here it is, 2025, almost 15 years later, and I'm so excited about what God has in store for this business. I'm so excited to speak on where this business has been, how it's growing. It's still my baby in every sense of the imagination. So yeah, that's Urban Elegance in a nutshell.
How did you start to develop your toolkit? Because part of this conversation is that we are trying to help early career Black women make moves with confidence, right? So with your story, it was not necessarily having the traditional path and starting to build that confidence as you created your tech career and then starting to want to create a means of joy in the same sense that you do with your friends and in that community from Howard University.
Yes.
How would you advise early career Black women who want to start identifying their gifts? And if you could expound on that process a little bit of you founded your business in 2008. So you had probably been working for almost a decade, right? So what was that timing like? Do you feel like it's something that you could have done earlier? Or do you feel like it's something that you really needed that work experience?
Absolutely. It's so funny. I always say, who would have thought in my late 30s I would have started a business, right? And I'm not a full-time entrepreneur because I still work full-time. And I've been getting the push from a lot of people that have been attending the events and also that love me and see leadership in me. When are you going to step out on faith? I ain't quite there yet. We're going to keep praying on that, but soon come. But yeah, I was at a point in my career where I was good. I really didn't think about a business at all. It was really a conversation with my friend about what more we can do. And I think it was about finding fulfillment also. I like what I do. I love what I do. I like the leadership. I like seeing the results. But program and project management in IT can be a long game, especially in the federal government. You don't necessarily complete a project. You have pitfalls with funding. You have pitfalls with continuing resolutions. You have all of these pitfalls that may happen that you don't see the end result right away. And so you don't feel, or at least I didn't feel as fulfilled immediately with my job. And so there came the conversation about starting the business. And what I will say to young people is definitely find a mentor. Find somebody that you can talk to. Also do a skills assessment. I am big on operating in your gifts. If that's not your gift, don't do it. We all have gifts. And even being in a partnership, we had to find our gifts because we were stepping on each other's toes. And so we had to learn what we were better at and operate in that gift solely. And I have found how I was able to incorporate both of my gifts, my skill set. I'm a project and program manager, but I'm PMP certified, so I'm trained well. And I was thinking, how can I incorporate into that business? So between mentorship, doing a skills assessment, and being real with yourself about what it is that you can do, and also really sit down and think about what more can you take on? Like, emotional capacity is real. You have to understand, if you have a full-time job and you're trying to run a business, it's not for the faint of heart. There are going to be times it's late nights, early mornings. So you have to really have a conversation within yourself about what it is that you really can do and the capacity that you have to take on. And I think those are like three main points for anybody like seeking out and trying to find something or a new path.
I love that. So I know you had your supervisor who had been your de facto mentor when you started in your tech career. Were you able to identify mentors in the event planning space who were also instrumental in helping you build your business?
Absolutely, I have. Again, it's twofold in the sense that I have found some amazing Black women. As I've developed in my career, primarily in the federal sector, I see more Black women in leadership now more than ever. I also was in a position, or have been in a position, where I was able to travel a lot. So I've gone to different areas, different cities, and met people in geographical areas that work under the same agency. I've seen women that have served as my mentors in that way in my professional career, and they don't realize how they're helping me in my personal career with Urban Elegance. But I have sought some mentors within the event planning industry as well.
Wow. So going back to founding Urban Elegance, I always like to look at the statistics behind any of the conversations that I'm having. In a 2024 BusinessOwnersUnited.com article, they cite that the average lifespan of a startup business is typically between 3 to 5 years. And then in the Harvard Business Review, only 3% of those Black women-owned businesses survive beyond 5 years. You are now at almost 16 years. So first, congratulations.
Thank you.
But what do you think has really helped you stand the test of time, and particularly for early career Black women who are pursuing, which I just don't feel comfortable saying, side hustle? You say this is not a full-time business, but I've been to your events. This is a full-time business. So how do you feel like it's helped you stand the test of time? What do you think has contributed to that success and growth?
So I, as you know, am unapologetically a believer. I'm a Christian woman. So the first thing I'll say is nothing but God. I do believe that there clearly has been some hard work behind it, no doubt about it. But I believe by God's grace, He has carried us through. Both Nikki, my business partner, and I are Christian women. We met at Howard. We worship together. We are tied in ways that people may not know. We're believers, and we believe in the power of God. And when He has His hands on you, it's a blessing. And so I'll first honor that. But secondly, it's really about the growth of our Howard University Homecoming Alumni Brunch, which Alicia has patronized, and thank you for that. We're about to go into 12 years of doing that brunch, and that brunch humbly started at, I believe, about 50 to 75 people. Up to last year, we hosted up to 2,000 people. We've had amazing sponsors, celebrity guests, celebrity DJs, and we just had a Howard community of love that has like covered us and loved on us through this process. That has been the signature event that has sustained us and has grown organically in a way that none of us thought it would. That one event has highlighted us in the New York Times. We just sat for a documentary. We've been featured in certain places primarily because of that one event. And then we have our client events. So we have done amazing weddings and birthday parties and very unique events that give us full-scale coverage of doing event planning. So it's definitely been hard work with event planning. If you don't show that it happened, it didn't happen. So our photographers, our videographers, DJs, there have been a layer of people that have supported us and been there for us that allows that business to grow in a way that's been the biggest blessing ever. It is truly a community of people that have given their gifts to us, and therefore we get blessed from their gifts. So that's where Urban Elegance has been and is going.
What I hear you saying is there's also an element kind of community in this business, right? There's a community of support that got you through Howard University. And there's a community of support that started your tech career and has helped you thrive in that space. And now you've also built a community of support in Urban Elegance. I've seen firsthand how you connect with others from Howard University. That HBCU experience is something completely different.
You know.
But I've seen you partner a lot with not only friends from Howard, but also friends in other spaces. So I think that's something that's important for early career Black women. Again, it's not something that you're doing on your own. It's something that you have an idea, you have this baby, but you are building with other people.
Absolutely. I was a very shy, withdrawn person when I was younger. And coming to Howard, I came into my own. I love the woman that I am now, and I'm no longer that same person because of growth. But the one thing I always know is real relationship will take you so far in your career, and just being genuine with people is really key. And I know it sounds simple. You can have umpteen degrees, you can have PhDs and all of these things, but how you treat people is really key. And I've been fortunate. I don't always get it right, but I've been fortunate to have good community around me and real people that genuinely want to see me win, that support me, that cover me. And it continues to grow. As we get older, sometimes you're very apprehensive of people that come or no new friends and all this nonsense. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all, because I really believe that God puts the right people in your life at the right time to make the right moves for you. And you just keep it 100, keep it a buck with people, and you'll be surprised what type of relationships forge from that. I've just been fortunate in both careers that I've had good people to surround me.
Well, let me ask this. What have been 2 to 3 lessons in terms of whether it be your tech career or whether it be Urban Elegance? What do you feel like those lessons were and that have helped to continue develop over time?
I think the biggest lesson I've learned, as we talked about earlier, you belong in the room. I've always doubted myself. I always felt like I may not belong, whether it be in my professional career, because it's a male-dominated industry. While I'm a program and project manager, my IT is somewhat limited. I could talk the talk, but I can't code and do all these other things. And so I just truly believe if the door is open for you to be in the room, you are meant to be in the room. I also believe another lesson is get out of your own way. We have this thing where we always doubt ourselves and we always let imposter syndrome set in. And sometimes we need to get out of our own way. And 3 is find joy in everything. Like, you got to wake up and find joy. And I know everything isn't always roses. It's not always sunshine, but I believe in finding joy and the blessings in everything. I probably overthink a little bit too much, but I sit back and really analyze where things are and just being happy and grateful for the path that I made. I was recently asked, did I envision that I would be here right now? And absolutely not. I just knew I was going to be a pediatrician. I just knew my husband was going to be a doctor, anesthesiologist or something. I did not envision that this would be my path, but I'm grateful for every step of the way that has gotten me here. And I'm grateful for those lessons that I've learned along the way. It wasn't always easy, but I'm grateful for it.
I want to shift gears back to something you said earlier. You mentioned traveling and taking care of yourself. So one of the things that I've tried to impress as part of this season is approaching work in a balanced and healthy way. Obviously, you are managing what I call 2 full-time careers, but how do we help early career Black women balance a full-time role and a full-time business in a healthy, productive way? What has worked for you?
As you mentioned, travel. Rest is important. It's important to say that I am single, no children. So I focus on me. I feel like unapologetically, I take the time to do me. Just recently, I was asked to go somewhere socially and I'm in the midst of a fast and I knew I would be enticed. So I said no. And as we know, no is a complete sentence and you have to do what's best for you. And rest is important for me. Getting out of my environment, while I love my home, I work in my home, both my full-time job and my event planning business. So it's important for me to shift my environment from time to time. So travel is really good for me. And when I come back recharged, I'm good for everybody around me because I recognize when I'm not being good to myself and not being good to others, I go within myself and have to slow down a little bit. So I think the importance of rest, the importance of balance as well. We hear it all the time. The job is going to be there. I went on vacation for 2-week lovely vacation. And I came back and I was replaced on a very high level project that I was working on for months, that I kicked off, multi-million-dollar project, assembled the team, put all the things in place. And I came back and they couldn't tell me one thing that I did professionally to remove me from that project. The fact that I was gone on vacation and they told me when I returned, that showed me there's no loyalty in the workplace whatsoever. The soft skills of trying to let somebody know something in a good timing, most people don't understand what that looks like, and they don't really feel obligated to you at all because there is no loyalty. So you have to protect yourself in all ways. I always tell people, especially the young people in my life, the people that I mentor, you have to have a current resume. Please don't tell me, oh, let me go, edit a resume. No, your resume should always be current. You should always have a current bio. You should always make sure that your things are in place, because at any time your employer can replace you. And then what?
It's true. You touched on something earlier about how you feel about belonging in these spaces. And that's something we talk about in our first episode, is looking at belonging through this lens of empowerment and where you choose to be. Because oftentimes you have organizations who will choose to replace you, who will choose to let you go. So as you mentioned, you really have to think about how you protect yourself. And I do think part of that is rest, but then also taking care of you. And you mentioned something important. You recognize when you are at that place, as you feel comfortable, how do you start to recognize that, right? Because if we have early career women who step out in faith and they start building this business while also managing this career, how do you start to recognize when, let's say, you're burning the candle at both ends?
Just simply, I'm agitated. I'm agitated with everybody and every little thing. And I have to pull back and stop. I've gotten to a point in my life and in my career when I'm no longer reactionary, right? I know I used to be that person that was reactionary. Now I pause and I stop. I'm good at it most of the time. 98% of the time, I'm good at doing that. But I realize you also have to recognize when it's you. And that's the hardest thing to look within. But yeah, seeing that agitation is one. Being physically tired, like when your body talks to you, and especially as women, we really do need to listen to our body fully. And when your body starts telling you the aches, the pains, the headaches, the things that may be out of the norm for us, we need to be attentive to that and not ignore that. Our cycles, that's all real. It all acts and is affected by our emotional well-being as well. I deal with insomnia a lot too. And I've been told that that happens with a lot of women, especially women premenopausal and things of that nature. But I've been dealing with it for a while. And so insomnia is sometimes my wake-up call, that it's like, girl, if you know that your mind can't rest, when your body is physically tired, but your mind can't rest, it's a problem. If you've reached your limit, you've reached your point, and you have to figure out what's in your best interest to get back to that healthy state for you.
It's interesting because I'm also going through that same insomnia. Not that I've ever not struggled with sleep, but yeah, again, one of the central themes that's been throughout this season is recognizing the signs in your body. I think we write off a lot of things that happen to us. We can always kind of explain it away. But I do think in a lot of ways, our body starts to talk to us, even when we're not feeling fulfilled or we're not growing anymore. I think we have to pay attention to those signs. I'm curious because I've watched your journey over time. I've seen promotions in your technical career, and then I've also been a witness to this extreme growth. And by the way, 50 to 75 people is not an humble beginning. But I'm going to let you have that one.
Thank you.
But like you said, going from 50 to 75 to now you're talking about 2,000 people. How do you ensure that you remain successful at both? Because there is the aspect of balancing both of these careers. There's also balancing taking care of yourself. But success also brings more responsibility, right?
I mean, we talked about type A, and I raised my hand high to that. I realize I'm a type A perfectionist. I am a methodical thinker, as I mentioned. I am a by-the-book administrative spreadsheet kind of girl. I like the boxes. I like the bullets. I like all of that. But I'm also a girl who understands risk management, risk mitigation. I plan ahead. I have a mind of a project manager. This is just the way I think in my life. And I realized I had to take a step back. This is just how my mind works. And this is how I function well. And so really the success, again, I don't know that I can take a whole lot of credit for it, but it's also really assessing when things go wrong. How can we make things better in the future? future. I believe in after action reports, and that came from the federal government. I believe in having meetings. That came from Agile, Scaled, Scrum, when you do your meetings to understand, what worked well, what did, and to assess that. And then there's the work thereafter. How do you improve on it? Now that you know what went wrong, what can we do to improve on it? And with everything, that's been the success, quite honestly, that I've brought in from my professional career into Urban Elegance, is learning that this skill set is not just for an IT project or program management. This skill set can apply to your real life. This skill set can apply to your business that you're pursuing and growing. So I think that growth, it's just so weird. And as I talk about it, I'm really realizing that, again, being placed exactly where you are for a reason, because you're being equipped to branch out and to grow in ways that are not going to keep you isolated. You could take that skill set and apply it wherever and utilize it as best you can. And I think, again, I can only speak for myself. I've been able to find success in the growth in my life with lessons learned, with pitfalls, and with realizing how we can improve on those.
That's so good. I love that. And then, like you said, just doing that, not only assessment, but even as you attempt in your career, make attempts in building a business, it's doing that after action to make yourself better. Outside of those things, do you have any other advice or recommendations for early career women who want to have both a thriving career in tech and also feel confident in building a business for themselves?
Absolutely. We're talking about this entrepreneurship and starting a business. Funding is real. And so sometimes you have to get the support of your community and your people, get your startup money. During COVID, there were all types of loans out there. And my business partner and I talked about it. I was adamant. We're not doing no loans. We're going to be kept. And we were two women with full-time jobs. So why are we paying back anything at this point? If anything, we're looking for grants. Well, we don't need to pay a dime back to anybody. And we were fortunate to get a grant during that time. But funding is real. You can't do this and operate in a vacuum without knowing what it really would cost to run a business. So be real about doing that. And as I said, operating your skill set, you have to have the right people around you. So whether that's an accountant, a bookkeeper, honestly, I've been trying to do a whole lot of checking those boxes. I don't know about any of those things, but I've been able to research and understand what tools I can use. So whether it be QuickBooks or Honey Fund or things of that nature, all of those things that I put in my toolbox to help me is something that I would encourage a young person or somebody just starting out to try to start a business, to try to figure out your funding, what you're going to need or who you're going to need in your arsenal to help you, and be able to seek the help that you need quickly.
Excellent. As we wrap up our time together, tell us what is next for Urban Elegance.
When it comes to clients, still working on building clientele. Ideally, I want to be able to say that I'm a full-time entrepreneur. And the only way that I can say that is if I have a corporation as a client. Right now, probably the biggest success that I've had was getting on the Howard University preferred vendors list. And so Howard University calls on me from time to time. They're very small in nature right now, but I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful, one, because it's a school that I love and I adore. And two, giving back to people that look like me is always important to me. And three, who wouldn't want to say that they have a university as one of their clients or customers, but there needs to be more of that along the way. So striving to be in a more corporate footprint is important to me. Also getting certified. Great to say we've been in business for 15 years. It's great to say that we've had this success in the signature event and that we're still sustained. We don't have any certs. We need to be a certified Black-owned women business. So ensuring that, again, while I'm continuing to work full-time, that I dedicate the time to do this and get this certification, these certifications to build the business is going to be key for me. So that's a goal for 2025, is to get to that point where there's a bigger footprint for this company and there's more corporate standpoint versus private events that are happening. And hopefully another publication. To say we've been in the New York Times was great, but we need Essence to come calling,
Well, you mentioned earlier you filmed a documentary, so we don't know where that's leading to
Absolutely.
next.
Absolutely. That's a dear brother of ours from Howard that is small, but who knows whose hands it will land in.
Well, tell us what's next for Amanda the professional and thriving in her tech career.
Well, hopefully, God willing, that I can continue to thrive. There are a lot of changes that are happening that cause for some pause and some concern, but I believe in God. I believe that God will keep me. He's kept me as a federal contractor for all these years, which can be difficult, but hopefully I can maintain my career within the federal government, specifically with this agency. I really like the agency that I've been working for the last 8 years. I am looking for a pretty big project. That project that was taken away from me, I believe greater is coming. And so that's hopefully where I would be and maybe get some more certs under my belt.
Well, sometimes we have to release so that greater can come. You have to make room.
That's true.
Amanda, thank you so much for being here. I have absolutely enjoyed this conversation and learning more about you, someone who's been my friend for years. And now I'm finally able to learn about your story.
I am extremely happy to be here and really grateful for you and happy for you that you pivoted and started this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Take some time to reflect on what you heard here. Be sure to follow us on IG and subscribe to our newsletter on Substack. Find us at Thriving in the Game on both. If you have a comment or recommendation, DM or email me. You can find my email in the show notes. I'd love to hear from you as we build community around thriving in the game. Until next time, take care.